She's going to talk about mock programming and how that helped her get back into the programming world. And this is a true inspiration to me in many ways, because that's something that has also, moved me from the tester space to the programmer space. And it's a really great way of upskilling. So whether you want to be a programmer or a better tester, here's a technique that you really need to pay attention to. So welcome, Sarah.
Oh, that's so nice. It will just mean I get to keep a little bit more energy from not having to be startled by all the clapping, so that's great. Thank you, everyone. I'm Sal Freudenberg. I'm delighted to be here. I'm ashamed to say that even at my ripe old age, this is the first time I've ever been to Spain. But it's been absolutely lovely so far. So I've been in the tech world for about 30 years. I've done most different roles. I've been a developer, designer, systems analyst, business analyst, project manager, etc. And it's kind of weird being here, and I'm a little bit nervous because I've never been a tester. So sure, I've done lots of testing. This is my third testing conference, and I always say that. I always feel a little bit nervous. But I have moved a little bit closer to your worlds, though, because now I'm a cucumber. So I'm a bit nearer to you than I was before. Okay, so before I launch properly into what I want to talk about, I just want to say one other thing that I've changed for my talk, which is I came to the retrospective yesterday, and one of the things that came up was that people were disappointed that there wasn't time for questions. And I don't know about you all, but I hate it when you go to a retrospective, you all have a really good idea, and then nothing changes. It's like the worst thing ever. And I love retrospectives, and I really want you all to keep loving and believing in retrospectives too. So what I did last night was I rejigged my slides, and I'm really, really hoping that I get through what I've got to say without tangenting too many times, which will be miraculous, and give you all enough time to have at least one or two questions at the end to restore your faith in retrospectives. Okay, thank you. So, I'm at Cucumber at the moment. My official job title on my business cards is Chief Being Sal Officer. The roles are kind of fluid. Sometimes I'm a developer. At the moment, since September last year, I've been acting CEO. I'll probably do that for a bit, and then we'll all kind of change around again. Such is the way of that. But this talk is very much about the developer bit, because I have kind of an unusual story to tell. So I had a 15-year break from coding. In that time, some of that time I was having children, but a lot of that time, I was doing agile coaching, consultancy, and training work. And then I decided to have a go at going back, which I have to say, after a 15-year break, is both exciting and slightly terrifying. So why on earth would I want to go back to coding after such a long time? I had a pretty good career. I was quite well respected for the work that I was doing. Well, I got kind of frustrated that a lot of the agile frameworks, certainly the bigger ones that I was seeing coming through, posed software development as a very kind of clean, structured, easy problem. Like, you can just impose this framework, you can just describe, or you can just do whatever, and it'll work. And that's really seductive, especially for large companies, really seductive. But unfortunately, it's not that easy, right? It's a system, a socio-technical system. It's messy. And even sometimes coaching very close to teams or coaching large organizations, what I realized was that doesn't really feel the same as being part of the team. And I started to lose touch with what that felt like, the kind of messiness of being in the business of creating software with other people, both at team level and also at exec level. And I'd find myself beginning to to lose touch, to not understand people's problems, to even get a little bit tetchy. Like, why is this so hard for people? Because I was forgetting that they're part of a system of people and architects and artifacts and environment that between them create software. And at the same time, one thing that I haven't forgotten is that I absolutely love logic. I adore logic. It's like my total favourite thing. In fact, the reason I got into software at all was I came out of college not really knowing what I wanted to do. I went around universities, I looked around, and I got speaking to this wonderful Italian professor at the university. And he sat me down and said, well, you know, what do you really love doing? And I said, logic puzzles. I love doing logic puzzles in books and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, aha, I know something you'll like. And then a month later, I found myself learning 6502 assembly language, which was a little bit of a shock to the system. And that's when my kind of love affair with logic and IT began. And I wanted to see if it was still there, and if it was still so strong. But over and above all of those reasons, I really wanted to see if it was possible for women and men to take a prolonged career break and go back. And if it was possible, I really, really wanted to inspire other people to have a go as well. And in my head, I especially wanted to inspire returners. So people had maybe been away from the workplace and were coming back, or were away from a technical job but wanted to come back. Particularly, but not exclusively, women. Because we're just not seeing the gender mix that I'd love to see in our industry. Especially somewhat older folk. So I'm 50 this year. Hooray! Some claps for older folk there. I'm 50 this year, and I'm definitely seeing, you know, that's kind of a bit strange, being an older person going back into a technical role. Especially people who've maybe had a career break, maternity or paternity leave to have children, and especially people who happen to be autistic like me. So you may not be at Sal right in the middle, but maybe you are, or you know somebody who's one of those things, and those are the kind of people that I'm hoping to inspire. Because if there's a skill shortage in tech, heaven knows, there's also an inclusivity issue for pretty much all of these demographics. Okay, so the first thing that I did, and I know this is absolutely steeped in a huge amount of privilege, I went on a coding tour. So I have a privilege of being known by people, having loads of amazing friends, and I said to some of those friends, hey, I'm kind of interested to see if I can still code. Can I come to your workplace and work with you for 2 days? And miraculously, a bunch of people said, yeah, that would be really cool. A bunch of really amazing people as well. And it was 2 days because I do have 3 children. I do struggle being away from home for much longer than 2 days. 3 days I'm okay, 4 I start getting really twitchy about getting back. So the first stop on my coding tour was Claire Supri. So Claire works at ThoughtWorks, who very kindly invited me up to Manchester, and Claire and I, very appropriately for our age, started working on a menopause symptom tracker. So we did that for a couple of days. It was amazing. I was hooked again. I think Claire's going to probably talk about one of the other things we now do, which is we do some remote pairing in the evening sometimes, working on a little game that Claire started developing that I'm helping with as well. So that was fab. Second, the lovely Rachel Davies invited me to, Rachel, just get some claps for being Rachel, everyone loves the Rachel, let me come to Makers Academy when she was there, and we did some Ruby, and we did some work on an events website. And my third but not final stop was at Unruly Media. So again, the wonderful Steve Hayes invited me to Unruly Media. Here I am pairing with a developer called David, I'm not very good at his surname, so Alkanani. And I love being able to say this because, like, having not been technical for ages, this is my favourite thing ever. Here we're refactoring the build server. That's like the best thing ever. And so coming out out of that coding tour, two amazing things happened. The first, which isn't really to do with more programming at all, but I hope you'll allow me to just go off on a little tangent first. So the first is that Claire's getting a lot of, Claire invited me to Hack Manchester to be part of her team. I'd never been to a hackathon before. I was, again, a bit terrified, to be honest. All these super experienced programmers are in groups competing with each other. Hack Manchester, this is the opening of Hack Manchester. This is what it looked like. There's Claire up there, you can see her, listening intently to the opening instructions. And this is Hack Manchester. So as you can see, pretty much what you'd expect from a hackathon, I think. Big cavernous room, loads of little development teams of 4, predominantly younger male, but not exclusively. And this is us. We didn't really look very much like the other team, so we were all women, 50% autistic, some of us a little bit older than the usual demographic. And I think what was particularly unusual about us at the team, and I think in a way it was Lisa that really started this off, was we were huge on self-care. So we went into this hackathon and we were hearing people, we were hearing all these other teams go, oh, let's see who can stay up the longest, let's see who can drink the most energy drinks, you know, and there were like energy drinks and coffees flowing everywhere and all that kind of stuff, and we were like, let's look after ourselves and look after each other. So we asked for a side room that just had a few teams in, it was nice and quiet. We all had physical setups that we preferred for our screens and all that kind of stuff. I took some aromatherapy oils. We did very lightweight agile, so we created a user story map, and we had 1-hour sprints or iterations where we worked for 45 minutes. We had a 5-minute kind of speed review retrospective, which was really us going, hey, come and look at this cool thing I did. And then going, what should we change next time? And then we had a 10-minute break every single hour. And we slept. So earlier on, we worked out that some people were larks. They liked getting up in the morning. They were super chirpy, but they needed to go to bed earlier in the evening. And some people are owls. They like to stay out really late, but then need to lie a little bit more in the morning. And then some of us are in between, which I am kind of like, depends. And so we structured our time, that's the right way of saying it, so that everyone got some sleep. So the people who were larks left about 9 o'clock after we'd had some dinner, went home, slept, came back in about 4:30, I think, in the morning. I left about 1, came back in about 6 or 7. Claire left, yeah, see, Claire can't let go of a really chunky problem. I think you left about 4, didn't you? Yeah, she left about 4, she was still back by like 9 or something. So everyone slept, which was very, I think, quite unusual for the teams there. Some of them had a nap under the desk, but we actually went home, or I went to a hotel, so I live in Manchester, and we slept. And we had some, not lots, but we had some automated tests. And we made a deliberately ridiculous, this is the very best thing, time machine. I was so excited. Here's my tweet at 11:15. I'm at Hackathon, it's an all-women team. Oh, and we're building a time machine. Like, it was the best thing ever. We're excited. You can see Cynthia so excited. And somewhat surprisingly, so I had to go home before the awards ceremony because I wanted to get back to my kids. They sat there and I watched on my child's iPad at the kitchen table the awards ceremony. All the awards came and went and no one mentioned us or showed our little video. And then right at the end, there were the award nominations for Best in Show, and we won. First ever all-female team to win Best in Show at Hack Manchester. Yes! If you'd have told me a year before that would have happened, I wouldn't have believed you. Okay, second amazing thing that happened. These are some of Cucumber. So I don't know if you know, that's Steve Tick, Matt Wynn, and Theo England. And actually, yeah, it might be fun to see how many different hair colours I've got in this presentation, actually lots. And that shows how long I've known the Cukes, because I don't know, this is an XP conference, I can't remember which year, but I've cycled through 4 other hair colours and gone back to blonde since then. So that's a fair amount of time I've known them. So they're really, really experienced developers, they're cucumber developers, and they're very, very lovely people. So they're basically the most unintimidating and intimidating people you will ever meet. And I, as well as doing all this stuff, I have a not-for-profit that I co-founded with my friend Catherine Kirk called Inclusive Collaboration, about how to embrace and support all kinds of minds in our industry. And we had a summit a few years ago, and Matt came along to the summit. He was one of the people who invited, because he's been very championing of our movement right from the beginning. And I said to him, "Great, come and do this coding tour," and he was like, "Sal, come and play with us, come to Cucumber." And I said, "Well, you're like remote mob, I don't know how that works. I'm not going to pick up on all the cues of how you interact together. I don't think it's going to work." And Matt said, "Well, I tell you what we'll do is, in your honour, we'll have a get-together in Belgium, because we have meetups face-to-face once a quarter. So we'll have a meetup, and you can come along, and you can mob with us." So we did. So here we are, mobbing. All sat round, two screens. There's one person missing from this, which is Julien Bissemont, who's Belgian as well. Not quite sure. Maybe he took the photo, actually. Maybe he took the photo. And this was the most terrifying thing of my whole coding talk. And there's a story I tell about how this felt, which is, if you can imagine that, like, I don't know, maybe at school, up to the age of about 7 or 8, you really liked singing. I used to sing, like, actually my 7 to 8-year-old sings a lot. You know, you just hummed yourself, you'd sing, you wouldn't care if you were in public or whatever, you'd do singing in groups, all that kind of thing. And then you kind of get a bit shy and you forget that you used to like singing, and you're busy in your life doing other things. And then many years later, as an adult, you have a bit of time to yourself and you think, do you know what? I can kind of remember that as a child I really liked singing. I wonder if I could sing again. And you see a leaflet for singing day somewhere, and it says, "Everybody welcome, including complete beginners." And you think, brilliant, I can go and do some singing. And you turn up, and the other people, they seem really friendly and lovely. And they say, right, what we're going to do at the beginning is we're all going to sing for 5 minutes each. And we're going to go round, just so we've all heard each other's voices. And you think, great. And then the first person starts singing, and they're like a professional opera singer. Right? And not only are they a professional opera singer, but they're singing in this hybrid, like opera jazz thing, right? And they're reading this notation that they've made up, that nobody else knows, right? And you're like, oh. But maybe it's just them. And then it goes to the next one, and they pass the sheet of paper over to the next one, who also knows this hybrid notation that nobody else in the whole world knows. Goes, oh, and they're an opera singer too. And by now you're like, oh God, this is a really bad idea. And everybody has a go, and eventually it gets to you. And you're kind of like dry-throated and thinking, how is this going to be? And so you take a breath and you sing the first note in your warbly, rasping, out of tune voice, and you can't read the notation. And the people around you are really like, hey, that was really good. Why don't you try doing this a little bit? Sing a little bit more. Oh, this means that. And slowly, stumblingly, you make your way through the piece of music, and at the end you think, do you know what? I think I could have a go at doing this a little bit. Not I'm as good as them, of course, right? But I think I could have a go at doing this a little bit. And that's exactly how it felt. And face-to-face is good for learning behavioural norms, and it helped me feel comfortable and connected when I was remote mobbing with these people. But co-location definitely isn't the norm for this team, like a long way from the norm for this team. And that works quite well for me. So everybody has sensory differences. And that might be as simple as some people prefer spicy food to other people, right? Some people it's too overwhelming or too spicy, and other people love it. I love, I used to live in Thailand, but I love spicy food. But equally, some people may be differently sensitive to noise. So loud clapping saps a lot of my energy. Or smells, or lights, or any of those things. So any of our senses can be differently calibrated, including two senses that we don't think about too much, which is our vestibular system, balance, okay, and our proprioceptive system. Our proprioceptive system is like this awesome magical thing that lets us know where our body is in space. So if you put your arms out to the side, you don't have to do this now, but you can play that later. Close your eyes and take your finger with your eyes still closed to your nose. It's your proprioceptive system that's letting you know where your body is so that you can do that even with your eyes closed. Okay. And any of those things can be differently calibrated. And so, for example, I like to wear sunglasses quite a lot. I like to wear noise-cancelling headphones quite a lot. I avoid shopping centres, bowling alleys, arcades, because they're really overwhelming. I like sitting on the floor. I seek strong flavours. I'm pretty rarely still. Moving around helps me focus. And your typical office environment doesn't cater for me very well, just like that big room at the Mobathon wouldn't cater for me very well. And we see these a lot. I've cheated a little bit. This is a newsroom, actually, not a tech office, but it equally could be. And I've seen people, even people who aren't autistic or neurodivergent, struggle with these environments. So this is my friend Zoe. This is a few years ago now. I worked at a client where we did a big agile transformation, which included let's make everything open plan. And Zoe struggled so much with the lighting that she came in sunglasses, still got migraines, and her team made a visor out of Post-it notes for her. Or you find people finding these weird little places to go and hide so they can have some space and quiet. And so the mechanism by which we mob is that we crack open a Zoom session so we don't see each other. And then we have somebody drive. Usually we try and make it the person who's got the least idea of how to solve the problem. And we all code together. So what we usually say is everyone's programming, but just that one person's typing. And we try to set a 10-minute timer. And at the end of that 10 minutes, when the timer goes off, we need to be in a place where we can commit the code, so we can do git commit, and then we'll swap driver. Okay, so we swap driver. The next person does a pull onto their machine. They share their screen. They drive for 10 minutes, and we keep swapping around. Okay. Couple of things to say about that. One is it helps make you really good, it keeps you honest about splitting the work into tiny chunks. Okay, what's the next small thing that I can do and get committed, with all the tests working in 10 minutes maximum. So it's really good for that. We're all massive fans of micro commits. The other thing to say is, I said we try and do 10 minutes because if we're really in flow on a problem, sometimes we ignore the timer, to be completely honest. And we were lucky enough to have Rebecca with Sprock come and mob with us for a little bit and kind of mine for some patterns. And one of the things that she said is it's notable that your team values flow maybe more than they care about the timer. So if we're really in the moment, then we'll just just pause the timer, let's have another couple of minutes on it to get it done. So that's the mechanism we use. And one of the reasons it works really well for me, you can see this a little bit here, this is the same space but looking backwards, is that you can completely create your own environment in which to mob. So this is my first experimental workplace. It's my minimum viable product, I guess. It was low cost, it was cobbled together with things I already had. My favourite thing about this workspace is that it's very low distraction. So I know you maybe can't tell too well from the picture, but It's one of those sort of, it looks like a big wardrobe, and you open the doors out and pull out the desk bit, which means that you end up with a door either side of you. So you can just about see there's one there and one there. I've got a curtain so I can adjust the light. I've got a door straight behind me, so it feels nice and enclosed. I've got my favourite chair, which is just velvet and feels really lovely, and it's so that's nice. I can use fiddle toys or whatever. I can have all my favourite things around me. And one of my very favourite things about remote mobbing is I can mute people, I can mute myself, I can turn off the screen. If I really want to, I can just walk away and leave, and that's completely okay. So the mob's like this thing that exists during the working day that's fluid, and it's okay to kind of roll on and off during your working day. And that works well not just for me, but a lot of the other cubes have youngish kids, maybe need to do the school run or have other things that they need to be doing during the day, and that's completely fine. So there isn't an expectation that you're there like from this o'clock to this o'clock, only that the mob perpetuates from this o'clock to this o'clock. So it's my house, right? It's super comfortable because of that, but it also means that when I take a break, if I go, okay, well, I'm tea breaks and a 5-minute break, I can turn them off. I love the Kick Spider, it's awesome being able to turn them off. Like, turn my screen off, everyone's gone away. I can have a proper break from interacting with humans. And you don't really get that in the office, do you? I'm going to make a coffee, I'll come with you, I'll make a cup of tea, like, okay. I always laugh when you go to these super modern offices and you go in and you're like, where's the breakout space? And they're like, here, there's ping pong tables and, you know, other things that you have to do with other people. You're like, that's not really a break, is it? And I think as an industry, we're starting to understand that some people need recharge time away from people, away from noise, away from too much stimulus, and we're starting to understand how to create those spaces, which is really, really important. This is my experimental workplace number 2. So some building work was being done at home, and we ended up with this funny little space between 2 rooms that's sort of triangular, and I was like, ha-ha, I'll have that. So this is my upgrade. There's good things and not so good things about this, so it's still kind of a bit experimental. Good thing that I kept, the kind of cubicle-iness. So you see, I tend to work at a standing desk in the corner. I've still got walls both sides and in front of me, so it feels nice and enclosed. So that's really good. Because I need to move around a lot, everything rocks in the literal sense here. So I've got a wobble board that I stand on. This is a TikTok chair that rocks. You can turn it sideways and rock the other way if you want to. And this is a rocking chair, which obviously rocks as well. So I move about quite a lot. If you're ever on a call with me, you'll now understand why that is. And I have concentration aids, so the ones that I have in this picture I brought with me, some props. Hedgehog balls, so nice. Really hard to put down once you start playing with them. This is my new favourite fiddle thing. It's called a roly-moly. It's just wonderful. That's on my desk there. So I have concentration aids, which is brilliant. I tried the running desk, so I hacked my, what's it called, the thing you run on, running machine. Treadmill, that's it. I hacked my treadmill so it fitted under the desk. I got on and did some work. My dog walked in the room, I looked around and fell off. So I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm sure walking desks are amazing, really good for your health, really bad if you've got attention issues. So maybe not to do. There are some not so good things about this, so I'm kind of learning as I go a little bit. There's some not so good things about the space. It's a bit glary, it's less cocoon-like, and what I've noticed is having standing desks makes me more impatient, and sometimes that's really good. If we're going to have a 10-minute or 15-minute meeting or something, and I'm like, right, just need to get through this agenda, and I'm really like, then it's great. But if I want to do deep thinking work, actually, I sneak back off to my other like little corner. And sometimes do that there, or sometimes do it in the lounge, so somewhere different. So it's definitely still a work in progress. And this is what it looks like from the other direction. So you see where it's a bit glary. And someone said to me, oh, look at all that natural light. And I'm like, yeah, but that's kind of a problem for me. I haven't got blinds yet, but I really must. When I'm on Zoom, I can see what's behind me as well, which is distracting, particularly for me. Oh gosh. And this is a bit of disclosure. Trees really, really make me giggle. I try and find the patterns when the leaves move, and it makes me laugh. Quite often if I'm walking down the road on a windy day, I'm just continually giggling to myself. So if it's windy and the leaves are moving, it makes me giggle while I'm on the screen with people, because I can see that happening behind me. And it's even worse in the dark. So in the dark, I can see 4 reflections on the screen, right, of the back of myself, which you never usually see. It's fascinating, right? And it means that I sometimes forget to listen to what the person on the screen is saying to me, because I'm like, oh, look, how interesting. So as an organisation, we still have some puzzles as well. As I said, I'm sort of doing the CEO role at the moment, and it's quite difficult. Sometimes you need to have difficult conversations when you're doing strategic work, and that's quite hard remotely, I think. It's quite hard to share artifacts. Sometimes you just want to like a whiteboard, or I'm quite a spatial thinker, so sometimes I want to go, well, it's like if that's there and this is here, and you can't really express 3D in the same way remotely as you can in the same room. We use real-time board now, which is great. And the other thing that we miss is that informal kind of bumping into each other in the hallway or whatever. Those little bits of information that get, spread out. So sometimes like, oh God, did I not tell you that? I really would have thought I'd have told you, but I just haven't bumped into you to say. And we've tried to get over that by introducing kind of coffee and cake time, where you'll say, yes, I'm up for coffee and cake this week, and someone will assign pairs of people to have like informal conversations during the week. But that's been limited success, if I'm honest with you. So there's still some puzzles, and I've still got a bit of time, and we'll still have time for questions. So I want to just tell you one other thing about working with Cucumber that's really working for me. So some of you might know that I quite often take down cultural fit a lot, and I know Ashley's going to, I'm sure, give an amazing keynote at the end of today about cultural fit as well. Cucumber's culture is that everyone's different. Everyone's different, we all support each other, no one's a robot. And that works for me really, really well, because I'm autistic. The Cukes like to collaborate a lot, like a really, really lot. Like their preference really would be collaborate together all the time on everything. And I get very, very exhausted. I kind of say the cool neurodiverse lingo for that is that I totally run out of spoons. And the day before yesterday, Angie, who did the most amazing keynote yesterday, saw another tweet about kind of being frank and open, and said, I was feeling uncertain about a keynote I'm delivering tomorrow. First of all, how amazing is that? She was incredible, wasn't she? And yay, she was. But if anybody's sitting there thinking, I could never get up and talk because they all look really, really confident and I'm really nervous, we're all terrified. Don't worry, you could totally do a talk. We're all nervous. Because it's filled with honesty about my failures and compromises, this tweet has given me the reassurance that people want and need to hear the real deal. So I read that and I thought, that feels like a bit of a supportive kind of double dare you to me. So I was like, okay, let's get even more vulnerable. So here's the thing that I sometimes do. When people are collaborating a lot and I get exhausted and I run out of spoons, I get the urge to do random solitary activities, right? So for example, in the last few weeks, I've just suddenly felt the need to go and bake a load of bread, crochet my son a wacky hat, do a 1,000-point dot-to-dot of Einstein. And my favourite thing that I do at the moment is make flexahexagons. Here they are. I sort of almost made a GIF, look. So these flexahexagons, which I've been annoying everyone with actually, this conference, so lots of people, I have one here and one later. There should only be 2 patterns, but there's 3. They're like the best mathsy thing ever. And they're different to these. I made one of these things that they aren't. They're not these things that you used to do at school. They're a different thing. Okay, but as you can tell, I'm slightly obsessed with them at the moment. But I have to go and do these things. It's like this compulsive thing, otherwise I can't focus. And I get really immersed in these things. And to the naked eye, that looks like I'm not working. Like she's making bread, she's not working, or she's making a trihexaflexagon, she's not working, or she's crocheting a hat, she's not working. But I am working. I'm thinking all the time. I'm unravelling the messiness in my head, and I'm having ideas, and I'm making random connections. And when I was doing my PhD, we were in a laboratory that was shared between IT, cognitive psychology and cognitive science. And some of my colleagues in the lab were particularly looking at creativity. And so just by osmosis, I know a few things about creativity. And one of the things we've known since 1926 from Wallace's model of creativity is there's this thing called incubation, where you need to stop looking at the problem in the face and go away and do something else. And that incubatory part of the process is super necessary. And I know you've all done it. Can't work out why this test isn't running. Can't work out why I can't fix this bug, or whatever it is. Go away, go for a walk, have a shower, whatever, and go, oh, how silly, how did I not see that after a sleep, right? You've all had that happen. So sometimes I do my really best thinking when I'm doing something repetitive away from other people. And my personal crusade and puzzle at the moment is, how the heck do we get the commercial world to understand that that's a thing? It's kind of like the science shows that having a nap is a really good thing, right? But at what point are our bosses going to stop going, I really don't like it when I walk around the office and people are having a nap under their desks, right? Even though science shows it's a good thing for that to happen. They'll be more productive, they'll solve problems better, etc., 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 etc. And I haven't, the reason I say I'm being really vulnerable with all this to you is I haven't even thought to talk to my team about this yet. I'm sure they'll be fine when I find the right moment to do that, and I'm kind of bemused that I thought a good test case would be a keynote with a bunch of strangers. So I'll try that first. Just slightly odd. Okay, so given in mind I want 5 minutes or so for questions. Despite the fact it's not perfect, and we still have quite a bit of stuff to work out, more programming, and maybe it's just because it's with what I think are one of the most wonderful teams in the world, is the most inclusive situation I've ever been in. It's the most authentic place I've ever been to work. It's the most personally supportive environment that I've ever found, where I can completely tailor my environment so that it really, really works for me. So my hope with giving this talk and talks like it is that I've inspired you just a teeny tiny bit, especially if you're not in a technical role at the moment, but maybe you'd like to do some test automation, do a bit of coding, have a little go. Or maybe you've taken a career break, or you know someone who has and they're feeling nervous about coming back. Or maybe if you're a parent, or maybe if you're a woman, and especially if you're autistic. So, in closing, it is absolutely possible to jump back into the code, but you just have to kind of be willing to take the leap of faith and trust that the world will catch you. Okay, thank you. So we have 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Who would like, thank you, now the microphone, for sharing your story. Who would like to ask Sal a question? You can test my running skills depending on how far back you are.
I could ask you this personally, but I am absolutely intrigued. I have never seen your desk from that angle, and I imagined something completely different. So I've seen those windows behind you, but I've never seen that white wall in front of you. And because I felt like I was standing in front of you, I thought you had a great big gap in front of you. But is that what you see when I'm looking at you when I'm parent? Bizarre.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm here at the kitchen table, so I'm in, with the Jamie Hewlett picture behind me at the tank girl thing. So that's a different room, but yeah, often I'm in that room.
So I'm curious, what's the biggest technical thing that you have learned while working with your team? Like something that you feel is insightful, like it's like a catch thing that you felt like you couldn't learn in any other formats? Is there anything that comes to your mind?
So the thing that surprised me the most that's changed the most is that back in the day, like 15, 20 years ago, when I was first coding, or maybe even longer than that, you learned like you were only ever working with one programming language, one database, one operating system, you know, and that was kind of it. And then you had your IDE or your editor or whatever. So there was just this very small set of tools that you were using, and that's the thing that astonished me the most coming back, is like, actually got to know this framework and that framework, and we use this thing and we use this other tool, and there's it. And so that was, at the beginning, could easily have been bewildering, I think. But then I very quickly got to know that nobody knows all of the things, right? And when I was a programmer back in the day, I had like Koenig and Ritchie, or later on I had Small Talk with Smart Style or whatever, you know, as a book that I would look things up in, but that was my only resource. And now you've got the whole lovely internet to look stuff up in. So that's been the biggest surprise, really, is that there are lots of different disparate tools and techniques that people use, and the extent to which that sort of necessitates everybody to be a little bit more frank about, well, you know, I don't know everything, I'm going to have to go and look something up. And I know, again, Claire, you speak about this sometimes, about us giving each other permission to not know everything, because it's just not possible. So that's been the biggest surprise. Like, it's okay to not know everything because there's so much to know, and it's completely okay to go and Google things, go and look on Stack Overflow, because that tends to be.
So we're going to play a game of Where's Abby? Most of the way back over here.
Oh, hey. Alex.
So I really like the idea of using this for anyone who's new, anyone who's been away for a while. The problem that I'm seeing for me is going back now to the company saying, this is a really great idea, and I'm not in those development teams. I'm currently writing an email to our head of HR to say, like, oh, we're going to do this. Do you have any tips on how, so I don't have the power to say to people, okay, let's do this, but I think it would be one of the best things we could do. Have you got any tips for me on that?
So I think when people think about remote working a lot, they think about all the things that you lose. Okay, while remote working, you know, it's harder to have frank conversations. It just doesn't work, and quite often that's born out of trials that people have done where they've said, well, let's have a development team in India and a scrum master, a product owner and customer in a completely different country, and then they kind of go, or let's have most of the team in one place and one or two people remote, which I think is really, really hard, actually. I recently remoted into a workshop, and I lasted about 20 minutes because I couldn't hear, I couldn't screen out. It's amazing when you're in person, you kind of screen out all the background noise and you can focus on what people are saying. Well, I just couldn't. It was all like the same volume, and I couldn't hear what anyone was saying, I couldn't follow what was happening, it was exhausting. So I think people have been really scared off by those kind of situations. And but we do know loads about remote working. So there are teams out there experimenting with it. There are people who have written books about it. My main tip would be, if you're going to have remote workers, even if you still have some people who are in the same room, like make everyone pretend to be remote then. So everyone's in the same, feeling the same pain. Retrospect. I love retrospects, in case you can tell. Retrospect, and then adapt according to what you find, because we're still learning, we're still trying different tools and techniques and things all of the time to see what happens. One of the things we find quite difficult, I was talking about in a workshop yesterday, is like decision making in a distributed team when you're maybe not all in the same place, even in the same Zoom room very often, or what happens if you're all working together and you want to break away. How do you get that sort of peripheral awareness of, well, I kind of overheard this thing and I know how to help you solve it. So there are still puzzles, but I think it's been shown so many times now that it's possible, and I think just get advice.
Thank you again. I think we're just about our time, so another thanks to Sal for sharing your story.
Thank you.
And as you've learned, there's different people appreciate feedback and support in different ways, and so I'd like to call out that we still have kudos cards available at the info desk.